homeschool our kids with special needs and or learning disabilities. So in this video, I'm really going to hone in on the foundations. That's reading, writing, and arithmetic, and laying those things down, giving you some tools, some ideas, some tips, look at curriculum to share with you so that you can be successful at laying those things down. I'm also going to share with you a little bit about how I raised my daughter who has Down syndrome. She's 8 years old, and some examples maybe in the classroom when I was a private and public school teacher. It doesn't really matter if your child is on the autism spectrum, whether they're on the Down syndrome spectrum, ADHD spectrum, or if it's dyslexia or dysgraphia. All of these tips, I think you can grab them and run with them. So let's run with them. Let's start with arithmetic or mathematics. To live in this world, we need to know how to count. And so, of course, we want to learn how to count, learn how to add, learn how to subtract. In my mindset, when I'm looking at kind of the big picture of things with my daughter, look, she's not going to learn Algebra 1. She's not going to learn geometry, hard geometry, is what I'm saying, high school geometry, or even trigonometry or calculus. It's just she's not going to use it. She's not going to need it. She doesn't need it to survive in this world. But she does need to know how to count. She needs to know how to add. She needs to know how to subtract. She needs to understand shapes and sizes and money and telling time and a concept of time, those kind of things that she needs to do. Of course, concept of time is going to happen with routines and schedules, having them post around your house, referring to clocks, whether you use digital or whether you use it with the analog, whatever you use, just repetition. For a lot of our kiddos, repetition is the key. And you want to adjust to your lifestyle. Of course, digital is completely fine if you just want to use that. When it comes to counting, practice counting every day. You don't necessarily, when you're laying the foundation for mathematics, you don't necessarily need a book to be doing with your child or a curriculum. If you want to, that's fine. I get it. It's not necessary. You can count things, you can read things, you can subtract. You should have a group of, pennies and sort through the pennies and maybe marbles. Oh, you don't want to do marbles because they can roll off the table and get lost. I mean, you could do marbles if you have a bowl and you put them in the marbles. Counters, you could get counters, like those little bear counters. You can pretty much use anything to count with. And I've actually talked about this a lot on my channel, I love that TV show Number Blocks right now. And there's a lot of educational shows out there that you can use. Another one was Umizoomi back in the day. I feel it was back in the day. It was probably like 10 years ago. But Umizoomi was one that was popular, but now Number Blocks seems to my daughter has thrived with it. They've got apps that you can pull up on your phone that teaches you the counting and subtracting. If you don't want to watch the show Number Blocks, getting actual math cubes. I have a whole video on how to use math cubes with your children. Just repetition every day with the math cubes, playing with the math cubes, learning how to manipulate them, using a workbook. Okay, but get away from the workbook. Get out of the workbook and just count and add and subtract and play games. Play a lot of games. That's kind of how I would recommend doing mathematics. Don't stress yourself out finding a curriculum to teach them with. Just count, add, and subtract. And watch Number Blocks and TV shows and apps and play games, lots of games. There's so many games to play. Now, mathematics does kind of tie into writing, as does reading, because everything seems to come together with the writing. I'm not talking about writing papers. Yeah, eventually that is going to happen, but not right now in the beginning stages. And to be honest, it may never happen for your child, and that is okay too. We want to work the fine motor skills, these guys right here. We want to build these muscles and we want to get some muscle memory going. So that means a lot of repetition for our kiddos. So whether it's just practicing their name or practicing the letters of the alphabet over and over and over again. There's this one, when it comes to writing, I really do recommend that you get a curriculum. Honestly, the best curriculum out there, in my opinion, is definitely Handwriting Without Tears. Happy Cheetah is great. We actually are using Happy Cheetah. The only thing that I have found difficult with Happy Cheetah is that everything is like physically small. And when it's small like that, you have to have more control of your fine motor skills, which is great for older kids and more advanced kids. But when they're laying those foundations, which may take 10 years, they need to work with bigger spaces, but eventually you want to move to the smaller lines and the smaller spaces. If you do it too early, you will see your child is frustrated, and that's when you know you need to kind of pull back, make it a little bit bigger. Handwriting without tears is absolutely amazing. Not only do they have the workbook that you can work through, but you can get manipulatives. So they have these really great wooden blocks that you can use. You can work with Play-Doh, creating letters with, you roll it up and you create the letter shape, as well as chalk. Chalkboards are amazing. Whiteboards are great too, but chalkboards are amazing because they can actually feel, there's more friction on a chalkboard, so they get more response when they're pushing down on the chalkboard. They can feel it more. So that actually is, according to my experience, as well as a conversation with my OT, and she also recommends the chalkboard as being one of the best things for kids that are learning how to write when they're writing their letters. Of course, whiteboards. Now, whiteboards, you don't get much resistance, and it's easy, right? Whiteboards are great. I know that we have a couple of different resources from, now it's Paper Pie. Paper Pie has some great little whiteboard activities where they don't feel like they're always writing the letters, but they're practicing the strokes. And there's only actually, if you get down to it, a few, I think it's like 6, 7, or 8, I should do a video on that, the different strokes that you use with every single letter and number. And if you practice those and get that muscle memory down, they'll be able to form anything. Of course, you want to teach them how to put them together and practice your A, B, C's, D's, etc. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, etc. And then also put them together to build words. And with writing, you do want to blend it in with the reading portion. So if they're reading a word, they also need to practice writing. And I know for Naomi, she's going to be reading faster than she is going to be writing. So we may read a book about animals. And it's, I see the bird, I see the bug, I see the cat, I see the dog. So we're going to be practicing the words cat and dog and bug, writing those out. I also, personally, I like to get the last portion, or the AT, like cat, bat, sat, mat. I want to get those last letters rhyming so she can start building words like that and writing those out and matching. And even you can get like a single sheet of paper out and do at, draw a little picture, put the MSC on one side and have her just complete and match. Drawing lines is great, having her rewrite it, those kind of things. Curriculums are great to have though. They kind of guide us down that path, but then we can add all the little extra stuff to it when we notice she needs some extra work to go along. For phonics, the biggest suggestion I had, because there's so many different phonic programs out there, it's just ridiculous. Getting a phonics program, a basic phonics program, to kind of see the pattern that you're building, but fill your house up with books. I can't even recommend that to you enough. Buy as many books as you can, especially beginning books. I hated it in the beginning, but Bob books, the way that they're written out has that pattern, that building pattern for phonics. And so having those in your household, I know Paper Pie has some other first reader books. You can get, we have a couple different ones, Christian-based readers. We just fill them up, and even some more advanced readers. So here's the thing, okay? A lot of people are like, I don't want to worry about it. We got to get them reading. Look, putting all that aside, just think of it this way. You want your child to read. They're going to learn how to read 2 specific ways. The most important way they're going to learn how to read is by modeling you. They're going to watch you read. They're going to watch you read to them. They're going to enjoy the time that they have with you reading. You're going to enjoy the time having reading time with them, and they're going to remember it. And it's going to be a comforting thing for them. The second way that they learn how to read is when you actually do that, sit down and learn how to read the phonics. Now, I should have mentioned the third because I can break up the actual work into 2 parts. We have the sight words and we have the phonics. And for children that have special needs, disabilities, you want to teach both. I know there's a lot of philosophies out there. I'm sorry, we need to teach both. That's kind of where I am. Sight words is going to help them build their confidence when they're learning their sight words. But at the same time, when they're going slow and sounding out each letter, they're memorizing the letter sounds, the letter combinations. In the long run, that's going to pay off for them. And they're going to make that connection later on. But teaching both of them is really good. And like I said, It may take till they're 15 years old. And that's totally okay. But come back to the place where you're reading all the time with them, even the harder books. If they can understand a chapter book like Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe or something like that, like they're older, but they can understand that, do it. You know, a lot of kids that have dyslexia, they can't necessarily read some of these more difficult books, but they can comprehend it. And if you read it to them, there is so many memories attached to that. Loving, caring, comforting memories that encourages them to push through and find the tools that they need to be able to learn how to read. Read to your children. I don't know how to stress that enough. And also fill in your house. Fill your house up with books. Earlier today, for an example, I worked with my daughter. I sit down with her for a good hour. We'll take a break. I'll do another hour. We do anywhere from 2 to 3 hours of just sitting and working. And that is not necessarily just writing and reading and arithmetic. There's other things. We'll work on fine motor skills. We'll read books. We'll do, activities, go on a walk, point out animals and flowers and bugs and draw them. We'll do different things. But today, after all of this was over, actually it was in the middle of a break. Let's just be honest. It was in the middle of one of the breaks. I caught her. She has a little nook in the corner. She had managed to pull all the books out. That's something she does. Then she'll re-put them in according to size. But she pulled them out and she was reading them and she was reading the correct words. And I know, okay, I get it. Some of it is from memory. That's totally okay. It's okay if your kid is just memorizing the words and then pulling them out and rereading them back to you with the right words. That's building confidence. That's building familiarity. It's just so good for them. And good for you because y'all are building a bond. And that can't be broken by anything, is what's going to last them a lifetime. So now that I've talked about those three, let me talk about my daughter who has Down syndrome and a little bit of what we do. So we, like I mentioned before, we're using Happy Cheetah. We are working on some of those smaller fine motor skills. We do tap into some handwriting without tears, and sometimes I'll print out some worksheets from teachers, paid teachers, which by the way is a great resource to find some work. And I'll pull those out, have her practice her letter, practice sentences, lots and lots of reading. I'll just pull books off the shelf randomly, a lot of repetition. I do have my packets. If you're not familiar with my channel and with my website, I do have some packets that I've put together. Some of them are free, some of them cost money. Go to my website. I will stick a link somewhere, hopefully on here. If not, they'll be in the description box below. But just to kind of show you what they look like, I'm also going to show you how I use it too. And I do have a full video on that, but since you're already here, might as well watch this. And this one's actually done. This is complete. So you can kind of see the work that she has done as an 8-year-old that has Down syndrome, and she's actually done some really good work. This one in particular is about the 6 days of creation. Now I do understand not all of you are Christian and you may not like this particular packet for your children, but you can still glean from how I do this. So let me just kind of walk you through this. What I put together here is, a couple sentences that I read to my daughter. And as you can see, I underline all the words. Sometimes she underlines it, sometimes she points to it, sometimes she circles it. We alternate, whatever we're in the mood to do that day. Sometimes she just doesn't want to work, but if I get her started by doing it myself, then she will eventually pick up the pen and do it. So I went through and I read this to her. The words that I circled are the words that I'm really trying to get her to learn. And down here, I asked a comprehension. So this is comprehension, guys. So who made everything? And she picks. Obviously, Mom got an X, but she circled it first because she thought I made everything. But then on the back of these sheets, what I did is we worked on whatever we want to work on. I wanted her to work on writing out the word God. And so I have been doing it. Now tracing, eventually we want to get away from tracing. But I went ahead and did the yellow, and then she traced with the red. Usually I put a line underneath. I didn't here, but we did it twice. 3 is the lucky number. If you can get 3 on a page, there's something about the number 3. Here's the second. I'm not going to go through the whole thing exactly, but I will show you just a little bit more. Once again, we circled God. We asked questions. And on the back, we worked on the word tree. Here, I like drawing lines. On the back, we talked about what else God makes. He makes rain. We did this one during the hurricane that came through. So rain was on our mind. We probably should have studied Noah, right? We practice her name a lot. Draw something that God can do. I don't really know what this was, but in the moment, we had it. drawing of numbers, which relates to math, count the numbers. So as you can see, those, I'm actually blending in all of those 3 basic skills with the reading and the mathematics. I love little things like this where you can trace squiggly lines. All right, I love this because if you can get them to color in really, really small things, that's great for fine motor skills. Now, she hates coloring. We're getting better at it. One of the ways I've gotten her to like coloring is by me coloring with her or coloring next to her. And even if she's like, nope, I don't want anything to do with this, then I still keep coloring. This is an example of work that we did together. It's a masterpiece, I know. At the very, very end of my packet, I did do some matching. And there's a couple ways we could do this. Of course, you can make this into a matching game. We did cut and paste. Really, anytime you can get your kid using any kind of fine motor skills, do it, because that's just going to help them succeed in that area with writing and help them to be able to communicate. There's so much more I could share when it comes to working with our kids that have special needs and unique abilities, and my channel does share a lot of that. So if you haven't subscribed, you should definitely subscribe. I will come out with videos once a week as well as reels, and I also have Facebook where I share a lot of these resources and where you can get them for free because I have little deals and sales and stuff like that. Thank you guys so much. Let me know if this was helpful, and I will see you in my next video, which actually you can check these out here. Thank you guys so much. Bye.